has made us forget the cost of freedom. We're still struggling with the same issues that we had way back when we first were brought over here.
Right. So what's one of the things that you would say that we're struggling with in this country? I mean, it's something that's opposing us. What is one of the things or some of the things you think we're struggling with?
The education is a big one, because I think a lot of it has to do with the mindset. And like Kwame Nkrumah said way back in the 1950s and 60s, that's one of the biggest issues that the struggle continuously proposes to us that we have accepted. Right. We should. There's no way in this time and day in the United States of America that we as a people should not be educating our own children. We complain every year about what we're not being taught, what we're not, but yet we send our children to the same institutions, knowing that these institutions are not there to help us in any fashion or form.
Yeah, I think like we could pick, like you just did, you brought education, and there's so many levels to that. So if we're talking about the struggle in that sense and form, the elephant in the room is the country. Who brought us over here? You know, this country, the Europeans brought us over here. That started our problems. You know, then after the emancipation, so it wasn't just chattel slavery; it was a bigger issue. That so people say, "Oh, well, slavery is over with you free." And it's no, we're not free because we haven't been free of the manipulation by this government. We had the Jim Crow era, you know, all these different levels of being molested in this country. So we haven't gained any freedom, and that's just one of our struggles, a struggle for freedom. But what does that entail? There's different levels to that. And not only that, like you said, let's talk about education. Why don't we have the education? Where do we get our education from? Who's controlling the education? Who's controlling the education system, the school systems? And then even when we get our own places, we don't support it. But then there's an underlying reason that we don't support what we do. And that's a struggle within itself, trying to get people to realize and recognize.
When we've been struggling since we've been here against racism. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. And we know that we're struggling against racism, but as we are posing to each other and to our audience here, we have to we can't just complain about what's going on. You know, the struggle is real, and we understand that, because I'm sure we're going to get comments about how real the struggle is. But at some point in time, we have to combat the struggle in the way that we can. Whatever knowledge and information or insight that you have that's going to help us in the struggle, that should be given in to a group of people who are being demised, a group of people who are being done any kind of way that the system sees. But we can't sit back and just talk about the struggle. We just can't complain about the struggle. We have to be vigilant. We have to be able to have broadcasts like this and other broadcasts that talks about we're in this thing for the long haul, and these people that I'm talking about, these Europeans, the system we live in, it's not going to let up. So the struggle is not going to stop.
Right. So let's dissect this. I want to start dissecting all this struggle, the term struggle, or the struggle is real. I think when we're born into a struggle, right, in this country. If you're black, you're born into a struggle in this country. What we start to think or realize is that the struggle means just poverty. That's the struggle. And what we see when you're grown, that's the first thing you recognize, and you say, okay, we're poor. That's the struggle. The struggle is not to be poor. And you have people that make it out of the neighborhood, and then they think that they're not struggling anymore. And like I said, we are all struggling. We all should be struggling, but it's not how people think of poverty. So many of us are so busy trying to make it or survive. I'm not even going to say make it out. They're just trying to survive. The system has made it to where we're in survival mode. And if you're trying to survive, then you're not looking at who runs the school, who's what they're teaching in the schools. You know, we're making paycheck to paycheck if we're getting a paycheck. So we're out there struggling to survive in one aspect of it, but because there's a bigger conflict going on. The conflict is someone is against us and pressing against us. You said white supremacist racism, white supremacy racism is constantly bombarding us with different problems. That's the issue that's bombarding us with all these problems. So if I'm too busy trying to eat, trying to get food on the table, I don't have time to be worried about just black power stuff or whatever we're talking about doing. I don't have time. I can listen to whomever, whatever leader you want to throw out. I can listen to Martin Luther King, But if I'm worried about surviving, it's nothing. I can't go out and march. I'm not going to do all of this because I'm trying to get food on the table. I'm trying to keep my lights on. I'm trying to get clothes on my kids' back or whatever. And then I got the violence from the police, not our violence. We got the police. You know, they're coming in our neighborhoods. They're doing this. So it's like we're bombarded with a lot of different problems, and they keep our hands full to where it's hard for us to do other things. You always hear friends that say, well, my mama worked so many jobs. And she was so tired when she got home. She didn't have time to check his homework. She didn't have time to be worried about, it's like, don't call. I don't want the school calling me, you know, because she already has a lot on her plate. So that's part of the struggle. That's the first thing we recognize, and we think that's what the struggle is. So you got a lot of these people that make it out of the community, and they don't understand that their struggle should be still going on.
Exactly, and I definitely concur with that. And I'm saying that even back in the day, the struggle was still real. We didn't have as much as we have today, which we don't have a whole lot. But they still, as a unit, understood that there was a fight for certain things. Now, whether we agree or not about the method, but there was a fight against the system, the systematic oppression that was going on. And they had issues as well. They had jobs. Some of them may have been penny ante jobs. They had farming. They had even slavery. But they still had a sense of they didn't neglect the struggle. And when I say they didn't neglect it, I'm saying that they weren't so busy that they just did everything and just kind of said, well, to hell with the struggle. I'm going to let these people do me in a kind of way. Some did, but many of them didn't. Because if many of them had done that, we wouldn't be in the condition that we're in today. In spite of how we feel about how it happened, there was something that they did. There was something that they griped about. There was something that they complained about. There was something that they overthrew. And these freedoms we have now, we can go back and forth about. They're really not freedoms. But yet at the same time, they didn't just all say, well, you know, because everything is hard, I don't have time for them. And if you do that, that is what is called a neglect of the struggle. Because we shouldn't neglect the struggle. In other words, we shouldn't stop fighting, Kev, because too many of us have turned completely away. And you mentioned that before you turned it over to me, like the struggle is someone else's problem. This is our problem. And this is something that we have to do as a people.
I think a sense of accomplishment is a big thing with that. And many of us, we wanted to vote. When you saying the struggle at one point that we were out here, that we fought, and I don't think, and a lot of us may have fought, but some of us fought for crumbs, and when we got the crumbs, we were happy. They will fight against you and say, well, we made progress. Look at how much progress we made. It was one time where we had to get off the sidewalk from white people. So you think, and like I know Malcolm said this, he said, just because you stab me with a knife, in a 12-inch knife, and you pull it out 3 inches, that's not progress, because I shouldn't be stabbed at all. I'm still bleed. If you pull it out 6 inches, you know, and that's what's been happening. And then if you pull it all the way out, I still got a wound. That's bleeding out. And even if you stitch that wound out, I still got a scar. And many of us are scarred in a way that this is the residue of what's happened to us in this country, to where many of us are satisfied to where we're at, the progress that we're made. So that's a different struggle for those that say, no, we got more to do. We struggling with each other to realize that but some of these people are so impaired, generationally impaired, that they're just happy, or they're existing, and they're not realizing that what we're saying is foreign to them. So that's a struggle with us. Like I said, the struggle is when it's a conflict between something, a forceful effort, and we got an effort with our own, trying to get them to support things that we're talking about.
Exactly. And some of us, as far as, not when I say us, I don't mean all of us, but some of us who have quote unquote achieved or maintained or made it, which basically that talks about your economic status. Some of us, we don't fight against what's going on against us because we have what we need financially. And so we don't want to be bothered. And so what we have is something called struggle fatigue. And this struggle fatigue is where we're tired of the same old thing. In other words, we're tired of talking about the racism. We get tired of talking about the educational system. And this is all we've heard since we were born. And so now, because we've heard it so many years, from the time we were born to the time we're in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, that fatigue has set in, because the system has done everything it could to undermine us. And because we have had to take this every day of our lives, the black man first, what they say, the black man is the first fired and the last hired, you know, and all these things that we go through. So what I'm saying is, a lot of us have that fatigue, and we shouldn't, because we're still in the struggle. The struggle is not over with.
Right. And I don't blame a lot of, because you have to realize that many of us, like I said, we've been psychologically impaired. We're mentally impaired of our history and our pride and our ego or who we are. So a lot of those people are walking around like zombies. And this is something, like I say, the issue is the system. And the struggle is the struggles is what the system is trying to imprint and impose upon us. So that, I think, is a big problem with us and struggling, because we struggle on different levels. Many of us, at first, you didn't know who you were and where you came from. I didn't know who I was and where I came from. My main thing when I was a young person, because no one older was telling us, because the system set it up like this. So now we're struggling to find out our identity. Who are you? This is what we're struggling. Many of us struggle to find out who we are. And then once you start getting this awareness, then you start struggling to get information, because it's not readily available for us. So now you're struggling to find, where can I get more? I got this little nugget. Where can I get more? And then we're being bombarded with the media, the TV, and it's telling us the opposite. That's why I say the conflict comes in. That's a struggle when you're fighting against something. We're constantly fighting the system, even if we want to do something. You open a school, you still got to fight the system. It's not, the doors are not going to be open. And someone else that don't look like you, they may give them all type of loans or whatever to get them started. If we want to open a store, the things that's available to other people are not available to us, because that's purposely done. So that road is going to be a struggle just for us to get inches, you know, and I look at it like a riptide, man. We're caught in a riptide. The normal ebbs and flow of life that everyone goes through, but it's like with us, it's a riptide. It's like we keep getting carried out to the deep end, and we're fighting just to get air. If it's an undertow, it's taking us under, and everybody else is just, you know, surfing and playing in the water, and we're being taken out, and we're going up current. We're going against the stream.
That's true. And I look at, you know, people that threw out what we call the lifeline. People like Stephen Biko, back in 1978, you know, he wrote a book that was called I Write What I Like. I write what I like. And then Carter G. Woodson in 1933, The Miseducation of the Negro. So, you know, people that are older, that have been through a lot, and I'm talking about, you know, adults, it's incumbent upon us, since we are struggling, to help in ways of the educational aspect, the intergenerational aspect, to teach, because like you mentioned, we all don't know these things at first. But just like you had to learn, you know, you opened up books, you saw things, and you begin to, you know, kind of contemplate on, okay, this is what's going on. Same with myself, and same with the other people who consider themselves as awake. So it's incumbent upon us to not just continue to talk about the struggle, but to teach these children as they're growing up what the struggle is all about. What's going to happen to you when you get in school and when you get out of school, if you go through the system, whether you go to school, public education or not, it's still going to be waiting on you. Okay, racism is in many facets and forms. So as an adult, it's incumbent upon us to teach those young ones, whether they listen or not, to be on standby, because this struggle is real, and it's not going to stop until you close your eyes on this earth.
And this is a problem, because many of the adults that they are coming into don't speak like this. You know, they're not getting TV programs that with people that speak like this, or even giving them any kind of pride of who they are. You know, everything that they're looking at in the media, or everything that they're looking at on social media, anything they're looking at in the news, is negativity towards the black man and black woman, or the black family. They're seeing all the crimes that we commit being plastered everywhere, and the crimes that people are committing against us are minimized, and it's even like that in the history books. So it's a uphill climb for us. We're struggling to do that, to be able to teach our kids, because no matter what, they're going to look at media, they're going to look at their favorite pop stars or rap stars or R&B, and it's negativity. And we have to help them to recognize that that's negative, because you could tell them, don't listen to that. It's popular. That's popular music. So they're going to think, okay, you're not cool. You don't understand. I like this person. I like that person. But that person's music is going to be in their ear, infiltrating their mind, going against what we're trying to tell them.
Exactly. And I'm not against that. And I think we're saying the same thing, because I agree with you 100%. All I'm saying is, on the side of that, we have a responsibility as adults. We have a responsibility to put something on the side of the music, to put something on the side of the games, to put something on the side of the videos. Those of us who are realizing that the struggle is real, because we say it all the time, the struggle is real. And so I think as an adult, we have to give application. And see, I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and That's all he did was complain about what we're going through. And those things we complain about are legitimate. So I cannot say I don't want to hear it because he's right. But I'm saying that at some point in time, like you just mentioned, okay, so since we know our children aren't being taught in this public educational school system, then we have a responsibility. We know these things. So to throw our hands up and say, well, we're just in the struggle. We're going to always be in the struggle. I'm looking at more applicable things that we can do as adults to help out in some type of way so that the struggle won't be as tough against these children that's growing up, because we know better. This broadcast is a perfect example. It's not a what they call, well, we can kill everybody with what we say on this broadcast. But those who are watching this broadcast, we always talk about the struggle in our broadcast. It's just we just name different titles. But a lot of people are learning from this broadcast. So they're ready so that when things happen to them, they're going to be knowledgeable so they can say, well, you know what? I watched the Jah Kev show. I watched some other videos that were talking about basic things that I can do so that I can withstand some of the things that come to me in this particular struggle.
Right. And I think we have to have solutions on how we can fight different struggles, because it's not a struggle, it's different struggles. And like I said, economically, you could say education wise, that's one struggle, and that's going to be a whole show trying to figure out our education problems or how we're going to be able to commandeer our school systems or create our own school systems or do whatever. And then you have the economic aspect of it, because a kid, if you can't get your kid to college because you don't have the money, you know, it's piss poor schools in our communities. What are we going to, that's a roadblock that they're setting out there purposely for us. So how are we going to circumnavigate through that? How are we going to navigate around certain pitfalls that they're putting in our communities? And you may have a bright student that, or bright kids, and they may be on their way, but then, okay, they get caught up in something in the street, somebody guns them down or robs, you know. It's always all these negativities, that things that's being put in place in our community that we constantly got to fight with the drugs in our community. You know, they put the drugs in our community to give us obstacles. By us not having or being impoverished, then our kids are looking for ways to make money. You know, so now we got that aspect. Why are we not having money? And like I said, for generations, that was the struggle. That was just the struggle. Just make a man trying to get food on the table, or trying to have a good house, a roof over our head, trying to keep the lights on. And then we doing other things like Christmas and all these other things. So it's like that's the struggle within itself. And it's like you struggling to tell people, leave all these other things, you know, alone, and focus on you know, trying to get ahead. Your economic problem. You can't be trying to struggle with your household and then trying to do Christmas. You know, but that's a struggle. Trying to that in itself is a struggle for our people. Or trying to be, you get a little money, then you be blowing it. You know, your spending habits are terrible. So it's a struggle trying to teach people about stuff like that.
Right, and you're right, because it has so many tentacles when you talk about the economic aspect of the struggle. You know, and we can say, well, let's be practical with this. There are about 100 million households that are of European descent, and there's about 20 million households, that's families, of African descent, African American descent. And there's about $126 trillion that the Europeans have in wealth, and the African Americans only have 5. So what I'm saying is, on something like that, this is when we teach our children what you have economically. Support people that look like you.
Right.
I mean, these are the practical things that we can do. Now, it's not, as you mentioned, it's not going to stop the struggle. So we're not saying this bullet is like a bullet that's going to kill a vampire. You shoot it once and it's over with. But we're saying there are some things within the struggle that we can do to minimize it, as opposed to just letting the struggle get the best of us, because many of us don't have these types of discussions when we grow up. And then we find ourselves in a situation where we don't know what to do, because the system has overpowered us, it has overwhelmed us, and now we find ourselves in a quagmire.
Right. And that struggle right there of economics, when people bring up, well, the white medium family is this much farther than the black medium family, that's fine. I don't need to be equal. That's not going to happen. But what we need to do is pool our resources. You know, me and my house, I'm comfortable. I don't need to have a 2-story mansion like some other people. I'm not comparing myself to that. I want to be able to support my own and not have to rely on you for a job or for you to employ my kids. I might have to rely on you for a job because that's the situation I was born into. And now, but I'm looking at that and I'm saying, I want things to be different. What I want is for our people to be different. We got to create jobs for our kids. We got to create schools for our kids. We got to create any type of education that we can for our kids and not be caught in the same trap. Because the thing, like you're saying, the guy is complaining. I'm tired of complaining about the same things, you know, and it's changing a little bit, but it's the same type of things.
Exactly.
And it's because why do we have all these issues? Because for one, we don't have support of each other.
There you go.
You know, you open a store, the prices are a little bit higher than these white institutions or white stores, then I'm gonna complain. I'm gonna say, well, yours is too high. I'm gonna come over here. But you don't understand. It's not about right here and now. It's not about you penny pinching. If you can afford not to penny pinch, some people can't afford to go to, you know, like Webb's grocery store when he opened it. Some people couldn't afford it. We understand that. But the people that could afford, if they would have went there and said, I'm going to spend 10 cents more for a can of beans and I'm going to spend this a little bit more for a chicken or whatever, then what's going to happen, his store is going to grow and then it's going to employ our kids. It's going to be killing a couple of birds with one stone or one dime or whatever. Then those people, then he's going to be able to bring his prices down. But we just want things handed to us in a certain way, and we'll complain about, and I say, man, you know, I tell friends all the time, yeah, I know it's a little bit higher. I know that, but that's not the point. It's not the point. If you can afford that, then do it. I understand there's other people that's not going to be able to afford. They penny pinching everything they got. But we, the ones that can afford to do it, have to struggle harder to make everything feasible for our future, for our kids.
And sometimes we put the struggle on our own selves. You say, well, what do you mean by putting the struggle on yourselves or ourselves? We put the struggle on ourselves because we already have the system against us. Everything we mentioned earlier, we have the educational system is against us, you know, the racial aspect is against us, the economic system is against us, the political system is against us, the religious system is against us, and we can go on and on and on. But what I'm saying is that is going to happen. But then we put the struggle on ourselves amongst each other because now I'm gonna be angry with you because you look a certain way, or you're lighter than me, or we have this class struggles, you know, or your success, you know, you live in a certain house and I don't, so I'm angry with you now, and instead of dealing with what's really got me in my situation, I'm angry with you as a person. So we argue over a lot of things that we shouldn't argue over. That takes away from us buffeting the struggle. And I'm saying that there's got to come a point in time in our lives, some of us, because all of us can't do it. And I know that's you know, it's like unimaginable. We got to have a point in time in our lives where we say, okay, well, is that really something that's going to help me because I'm angry with you because of where you live, because you look like me?
Or instead of the anger part, I never really saw the anger. I think in a way I saw anger,
jealousy, whatever the case may be.
Like, because I say, like, when we was growing up, I'm gonna say when we was coming up in the hood, we compete with each other. You know, we don't understand that we're all poor, but you wearing some sneakers, you know, whatever sneakers you wear, you know, and I don't have to wear them. I'm laughing at you, but I'm poor too. What the hell I'm laughing at? You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, we used to do that. We used to make fun of, you know, because they was just less fortunate than us. I mean, you wearing them, you had them on yesterday or whatever, but we're all in the same hood. Boat. And that's what I'm saying. I remember things like this growing up, and we was, I forgot the shoe store, but everybody was buying them that had to, but other people was able to afford Nikes and stuff like this. But what was it, Pro Wings or whatever those sneakers were. But it's like, man, we're all poor. We're all living in the courts or the projects or on the east side. It ain't like, okay, you're not living in the courts and you living on Hayes Street or something like this or Burnett, but you in a house, but you don't own your house. You know, you're renting. Right. You're on, you know, subsidized housing and things like this, or you're going to the same school that I'm going to, getting a crappy education that I'm getting to, but you're looking at how you dress as opposed to me and all this stuff, and we competing with each other, and we got to learn to compete with that monster that's out there kicking our ass and kicking our parents' ass and just kicking our grandparents' ass.
And that has to be called a loss of vision. You know, we're not focused, because everything that the system throws at us, a lot of us, we gravitate towards it instead of saying, okay, that's a ploy, that's a trick, you know, that's something that the system does. For example, I don't have a problem with what you choose to do with your life as far as a male. If you want to be homosexual, or you want to be bisexual and all this kind of stuff. But like the LGBTQ community and DACA. So now here we are arguing and marching and trying to help other people that's in our community, where that is not going to help us as a people. That's a person's choice to do what they want to do, whether we like it or not. My concern is people that look like you and I have been through hell for the last 400 plus years and counting, and we're still going through it. So what can we do as a people to try to soften the blow? How can we become unified and fight against this beast, as others have done in the past, to help somewhat for us to deal with this issue?
And that's a struggle. Like I'm saying,
that's a struggle.
That's a struggle. Us fighting with each other, or us fighting with other groups that want us to be. They want to join us or act like we're all in this struggle together. And once we help them achieve it, because no one fights against the beast or the struggle like we do. So they want to jump on our bandwagon and have us and be part of that. And they want to say it's just like the civil rights movement and all this. And everybody want to say that, but then when I see us getting beat on the side of the cop, I don't see all these other groups protesting.
Exactly.
Like if we form a protest, then they're going to do it. But you don't have to be part of our protest.
Right.
You don't have to be part of our group. If you getting hit from here on the chessboard, it's not one thing moving. It's a bunch of different parts that's all different. So if they can move, you can move, we can move, and we can all fight against the system and say that, okay, I'm with y'all, but y'all not infiltrating our movements. And that's anything. I don't care what it is, but see, they got us fighting so many different ways. And then we're fighting with each other, and then that's a magnifying the struggle.
And some people take advantage of our struggle. You say, well, how could that happen? Well, I mean, some people who look like us can take advantage of the struggle. They come over here from different countries. And I remember you told me a while ago about a friend of yours that you had, and I don't want to missed the story, but I'm paraphrasing. But basically, he was taking advantage of the African Americans, you see. And then when you called him out, he got angry because as long as we're giving them money, he looks like us. He's from the continent. He came over here. And the struggle is real with him as well. But because he was able to come over here and make a successful entrepreneurial business or whatever the case was, he looked down upon us because now he's trying to tell us what to do, like some of these rappers and these other people who come over and they take advantage of our struggle because they make it in sports, they make it in entertainment, and then they start telling us what we should do to be like them, where if it wasn't for our ancestors, wouldn't even be here.
Right. Man, that's a whole lot right there. Dealing with those that make it, they start saying there's no struggle anymore because they got rid of their poverty struggle. But they don't understand that the struggle is more than just poverty. Your struggle, like I said, every black person in this country should be struggling because you're fighting against a system, a system that's trying to destroy your youth. They don't care about you as an individual making it, and they could hush you at any time. But what they don't want, if you start an organization or a movement, that's harder for them to curtail or to take away or to diminish, or they're going to attack the leaders. I don't care about this person falling to the wayside because somebody else is going to step up. That's how it should be. But then when you get an organization, they got an organization, then we fighting with each other because it's like a competition. We compete with each other to find a way out. I don't care if this house is on fire and you run to the door and I bust out the window. I'm not worried about which way you're trying to get up out of there. As long as we meet on the outside and you safe, I'm good too. Damn, and we could talk about what happened. But what we do, we sit up and argue. We're in a burning house arguing about what's the best way to go.
And I think Bob Marley said it best, back in the 1970s, I believe it was 1973, he came up with a song called Get Up, Stand Up for Your Rights. But in that particular song, there was a little verse that he said, don't give up the fight. And he kept repeating it, don't give up the fight. Well, when people get money in their pocket, or if they don't have a lot of, animosity towards them at a certain time in their life, then they kind of take the fight and they give up, because as long as it's not in your lap, you're okay with it.
Right.
But and you can definitely attest to what I'm saying when it comes to some of these people who we say, quote unquote, have made it. When they get in trouble, like Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson, I can go on and on, P. Diddy, all them. Then they run back to the African American community because now the struggle is real now. Well, it's always been real. It just so happens you got caught up.
Exactly. It's happening to you now, and you didn't think it would happen to you. And then it's like they treating you unfairly. And a lot of times on the flip side, that we get caught up with our celebrities. We worried about them making it and stuff on things they did, and you still got to do stuff for yourself and your community. If you're an adult and your kid is hungry, starving, and you're saying that you're okay, then you're the problem. If you're an adult and your kid is in danger and facing perils, and you're saying that you're okay, then you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because when I'm saying starving, I'm not talking about just food. I'm talking about starving for a history of who they are. They're starving for information and education. They're starving for a way out of the community, and they're malnourished on anything that could, for themselves, that can help them helping themselves.
Right.
Then, and if you think you're okay because I'm putting food on the table, you're thinking we're okay as a community because our kids, and your kids may be doing great. You may be in a nice house and your kids doing great, but our community isn't. And if that's the way you think, then you're part of the problem. If you think, well, I'm fine, my family, my kids is fine, but the kids in our community is not fine, then pretty soon your child gonna be on their own, and there's nobody's going to back them because they're going to think that they're privileged and there's no real problem. They're not going to see the problem with our people. We have to stop looking at as individuals at a problem and look at us as a community as a problem,
as a group. Right. And I think too, our narratives have to be consistent. I know we've done a broadcast about this in the past, but when I say our narratives should be consistent, we shouldn't wait until a certain time of the year to talk about how our people achieved or what we did in the struggle. We shouldn't just wait till February only. We shouldn't just wait till Juneteenth. We shouldn't just wait till Kwanzaa. And we have fallen, and then that's another trick that we've fallen into, and it makes the struggle tougher because here we go in all these months and we're not talking about anything to encourage our people to talk about these discussions. So we have to wait until February, and then you want to pull out the dashiki in February, then you want to wear the afro and talk about Black Power, but then after that you go back into your cave until the next year comes around. So that's a part of the struggle that we have to do a much better job at as a group of people and not just one or two people.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about how we struggle within ourselves, the conflicts that we have. And the conflicts is when you want one thing, somebody else wants another thing, or you're going against each other. We have the elderly generation going against the younger generation, and you're finding any way to oppose each other. And that's not helping with the struggle. And to me, it's our jobs, or it was our job, to educate them. And if we don't do it, then you find yourself on the high horse. I'm gonna give you an example. Like when people get saved with the church, they did all they little running around and smoking and drinking and all that stuff. And then now that they're older, they're looking at the edge of the cliff, and they knowing it's time, then they want to get saved. Then you turn around and point the finger at everybody that's doing the same things that you used to do. And you got to understand. So my thing is, don't be a hypocrite. Understand. And the whole thing is not that I'm greater than thou, I'm more righteous than thou. Is that we have to work as a people. And you have to be able to reach those kids. You have, and you can't wait till you're 60 something years old. And if you are that age, then try to reach someone that's right below you and tell them, like, hey man, try to reach these kids. There's some people that's in that intermediate mode that they know what's happening with the computer age kids and all this stuff, that they could reach them. You sitting up there talking to them and you don't know what TikTok is. You sitting up there talking to them and it's like you have no lifeline to them because you have no connection to them. But you have to, we got to be in steps. We have to work as a group, as adults, to reach our kids. You're going to be fighting with other adults. You're going to be like, man, you're not doing anything. But if somebody's not doing anything, I don't care. I can't waste my energy struggling with you when you're grown, and we should be focusing on our kids. Why should I struggle with a 40-year-old man that's out here doing something? It's like, okay, maybe somebody else got that energy. And I'm not saying leave them alone, or say a 20-year-old man. If you haven't gotten it yet, some people got that type of energy, and that's positivity. But I'm looking at the kids. Now, somebody else may be saying I'm trying to reach adults, but we all got to do something.
Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. We have to look at how we shouldn't allow our attitudes to drastically change towards the struggle. You mentioned it at the outset. We're always going to be in the struggle. We were brought over here, we struggled. We're struggling now, we're going to struggle till the end of time, if there's a such thing as an end of time. But what we can't do is we can't allow our attitudes to drastically change when it comes to the struggle, meaning this. We can't chase what looks good. We can't chase what builds our bodies only. We have to build our minds. We have to be on standby. We have to have some type of warning that knows, okay, because I know I'm in the struggle. You're in the struggle. There would never come a time in your life that you will wake up saying, wow, I'm free. I don't have to worry about anything. And I know that. But see, we all have to have that same attitude, knowing that each and every waking day, it's tough, man. It's hard for us. So what can I do to make this world a better place to help my people while I'm in this on this earth for as long as I am? And that's the kind of attitude we should have, even though the struggle is real. Even though we're struggling with our bills, we're struggling with our job, we're struggling with our friends, we're struggling with all these issues, but we still can't let that consume us to where that's all we say is we're struggling. I'm so sick of this. I'm just tired of this. We always going to struggle. That's true, but what are we going to do within the struggle? And that's the challenge that a lot of times people don't want to hear that, but we have to tell people that just because the struggle is real, it's always going to be there. What can you do? And don't tell me you can't do anything.
Right. And it's a plethora of things and avenues and things like we just naming parts of the struggle, problems that the struggle has created, the issue that we have, and just even recognizing that this country, what this country is. I'm going to say that. Just recognizing, getting us to recognize who America is. We want to work within the system. And I could say, okay, if that's what you want to do, then I'm going to leave you alone. Do that. I'm not trying to work within the system, because to me, the system is who she is. That's the nature of America, is what she's telling us and what she's been telling us she is, or what she have been telling us over the decades, over the centuries, who she is with us. And we'll get a little bit of, leeway here, and we think we're making progress. And then next thing you know, we still complaining. But I look at the history of this country and dealing with us. And I'm a believe, I think Maya Angelou said, if someone's telling you who they are, believe them. So I'm like, okay, I'm believing. I know that you're the problem. I know that you're the main one that's creating all our problems. So we have to look within ourselves. That's my attitude. Now, if somebody else saying, I want to go and I want to vote for this person and they're going to solve our problem, I'm not going to sit here and fight with you. There's too much happening over here for me to be fighting with you over what you believe or how you believe in this country. That's a struggle that we're having with each other, because we got people that fight with each other because you want to vote. And I'm like, yeah, you can vote. I don't care. Do that, but then do something else.
Exactly.
Or you thinking that we should go march and stuff. Okay, if I don't want to march, I don't care. You do that. But what we got to recognize is positivity. If I see you have a show and you're talking about this, and I know it's talking, if you're talking about health, then that's a positivity thing. That's a positive thing. Why am I fighting with you over what you're trying to do that's positive?
Right. And I want to say, too, that we have to stop being detached from the youth. I understand that the youth, some of the youth are youth and they have, different mindsets. But when I say that, I'm saying a lot of our youth think that the struggle was in the past. They think that it was just ancient, because that's all we talk about is back in the day. But we have to inform them. We're not trying to tell them to do anything but to recognize that this struggle is going to persist. And those of us who have people in our lives, who in our own family, who we see them often, instead of talking about sports all the time, instead of talking about the media all the time, instead of talking about those things that really are just they don't mean much, we should be able to slide in there every now and then, some type of way, strategically, to talk with them, to let them know that what you're going through now, like when a gentleman says in our family he's going to go to college, and he thinks that that's going to be the answer to everything. So he's happy. He's on cloud nine. But, well, you're going to have to be ready to experience some things in college. And so if he goes there knowing that this is going to be something waiting on him, he needs to be prepared to know that when it does happen to him, he doesn't crack up and start getting high and getting drunk and just forgetting everything because of these things. But if we prepared him well, when he goes there, he's going to say, this is a part of the struggle. Because my uncle and my brother, my sisters, my auntie, they told me that this was going to happen, and it's happening. And this is even with our own people. It's not just the European. Some, like you mentioned earlier, some of our own people are our worst enemies.
Right. Me and my friend was talking about the generational progress that we're making, and recognizing, because sometimes, like, I could say, well, this is how my dad was with me, and he would do, and it wasn't just. It was, but he didn't understand how to raise a kid. Some of the things he may have beat me for, and I'm like, and I'm looking out, but if you would have explained to me that, then I wouldn't have did this. It's like I'm 7 years old and the lights go out. He's gone, and my mom, my sister there, and I'm like, okay, the TV's out, they lighting candles. I go lay down. I'm like, I'm thinking I'm a kid. He comes home. Where's Kevin at? Then it's like, okay, now you putting your foot in my chest because I should be a man. Why is you sitting there asleep? You don't know if somebody's breaking the house. Well, that wasn't explained to me. And I understand that's how you wanted it to be, and that's where I learned. But you didn't explain that to me before, and the conflict. And so now it's like, but now I'm saying, okay, I can understand because maybe you didn't understand how to do things, but I'm making progress with my kids. Whatever I'm expecting of you, I'm letting you know even at a younger age. I need you to do this. I need you to be like this. And I'm not going to jump on you for something you don't know. But in their parents before that, this has been something that they have gone through, and they thinking this is correct parenting. Whooping somebody with an extension cord. My homeboy was telling me that. Yeah, my mom whooped me. I was naked. He whooped me. And it's like, but we not holding it against them. They don't know any better. So and the younger people got to come up. You're going to make progress. You're going to look at us and say, yeah, I don't know how to do this stuff on the computer and this stuff. But you got to understand, we know how to do a lot of other things, and we helped you get to a point, and this is new technology. You don't look down on us. We're for you.
Exactly. That's well said. And we have to, too, realize when we're talking with the youth and even our own siblings ourselves, the liberation struggle is more than about an image or status. See, and a lot of us keep thinking that it should be about comfort. If you are comfortable in this world, in this skin, then you have either neglected the struggle, or you don't give a damn about the struggle, or you just have thrown your hands up and you said, as long as it doesn't come to my house. Because if you look like us, you should always be on the lookout, because the struggle should be in your lap in some kind of form or fashion. You should feel the effect of the struggle, and that's why you should be fighting against the struggle to do everything we can. But again, it's not about wearing a certain type of clothes. If that's what you want to do, that's fine, but that doesn't make you free, or looking a certain way. That doesn't make you free. We have to realize that this struggle that we're talking about is as serious, and it's way more serious than Kev and I are saying. We're just putting it out there, but over 400 years and counting, and it's still going on now, how people have done us and continue to do us, and how some of us do our own selves. So we have to look at our own hearts and say, hey, I'm going to be a part of the solution. I'm not going to be a part of the problem. And that's the attitude that most of us should have.
I think that's a tightrope that we have to, because some of us that treat us wrong, and sometimes you need to call it out, and that causes conflict. And they need to be called out.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't, but my thing too, you have to understand that the reason that they are the way they are is what's been happening to us as a people. Some people think that they look down on their own people because they don't know any better. The system has imprinted that upon you, the negativity of being yourself. Like you was talking earlier, like we hating each other. I think that hate is you hating your image, period. So anyone that looks like you, you're projecting hate on them. It's easy for me to gun you down, or it's easy for me to want to fight you over basketball or whatever like that, because that's an internal hate that you have with yourself, and that self is your people. So when you see someone that looks at you, you don't see any value. Or when you see somebody that's getting something, that's making progress, it's the same thing.
Right.
It's like that's when that jealousy comes in. Who the hell they think they are?
Crabs in the barrel or something. But and I'm saying too, Kev, I do get the point that a lot of us, we are who we are based upon how we were raised and everything. And I definitely agree with that. But I'm also saying that when that comes to a person who knows, that person they should have the responsibility to teach. I didn't say the person was going to listen. I'm sure your children, as they grew up, they came at you sideways and everything, but you crashed out on them because when they came at you a way that they shouldn't have, in love, you checked them, you let them know the truth. You didn't just say, well, because this is how y'all were raised, and you're not saying that, but I'm saying we got to make sure that even when they come at us because of everything that happened to them, we still have to teach them in love. And again, that's our responsibility, whether they listen or not, because at one point in time in your life and in my life, people try to tell us things, and what do we say? I don't want to hear it. We were smelling our own piss. We were, we thought we were all this. But as life went on, and some don't get it and some do get it, but there were people who stayed beside us and kept, I don't know if you had an uncle or a brother or an auntie or someone who kept telling you the truth about what you should be doing in this struggle. And now you're saying, wow, that was right. Yes.
Yeah, and I think part of it, you have to have a plan, a game plan. I could sit there and go preaching to some little kids, and if they 7, 8 years old, it's not going to do no good. I have to understand what they're going through as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. We have to have people that have communication skills, and I don't mean being able to verbalize in a certain way. I'm talking about to be able to communicate in a certain way. I don't care about you saying an N-word like this if that's what they're hearing. That's what I'm saying. We got to be able to, because if I come and I'm speaking like I got a Harvard education, but I can't relate to the streets, then they're not gonna. If I can't relate, then it's no going to be a relationship. It's not going to be a relationship.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you got to have people that say, like, I know one of my homeboys, like, man, I've been to prison, so I could talk to these dudes. I know a couple of dudes like that, and they could go out and talk to these dudes in the streets, and they could talk to them in a certain way. Like, I've been there, and they may have stripes, and the kids may respect them, as opposed to a preacher coming to try to talk to them that haven't been anywhere, that don't even understand the shoes that they're walking in on the streets that they out walking about in. You know, they don't understand it, but some people can do that, and that's the ones that you gotta, okay, we need you to talk to these kids like this, the kids like that. You gotta put people in the right position, and we gotta understand that I can't go talk to anybody about anything, everybody about anything. Some people are gonna be able to relate to me, and some people won't.
But you're not going to let someone come in that's younger than you, that's, let's say, selling dope or doing something that's just asinine. You may not be able to reach them, but if they ask you, hey, well, is this something good? Or, you know, you're going to share with them the truth about how it should be. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and if they don't want to hear it, then I'm not going to sit there, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm going to understand. I'm going to tell them, because throughout what I'm saying is I understand why you're doing what you're doing. Right. And I see, this is how Malcolm used to teach us. He'll say, you know, like, you drinking and you doing this and y'all out there perming your hair and stuff. You know, he didn't he talked to them in a condescending manner. He was telling them, I understand why, because he used to do it. You know, and he was like, this is what's happening. So when you can relate to them, they're able to relate to you, and you may be able to get your message across.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that's important. And I was just making sure that we're on the same page, because sometimes, and not you, but sometimes people feel like, you know, these people are so out there, I can't reach them, I don't want to reach them, that's their thing, and that's how they were raised, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm saying, no, that's not the attitude that we should have. Even though we can't change these people, we can tell them a word of encouragement, and like you said, we don't have to browbeat them and preach to them till the cows come home, but, you know, to tell them, you know, some things that they don't want to hear. And sometimes we're uncomfortable because we don't want to share with people the truth about what should be said or what should be known. It's up to that person to accept it or reject it, and we move on. And eventually one day, you never can tell what you said. They may go back and say, one day this guy was telling me something, and now this is what he was talking about. But if he never says it, it's like, well, man. And then we say it this way: when something happens to him, we'll say, oh, I knew that was going to happen. But you saw him every other day, and you didn't have enough wisdom to say, okay, well, you keep doing this, you may end up in this situation. And that's basically just the truth.
Yeah, I want to thank some of y'all that showed up. I'm gonna read some of y'all comments. I appreciate Ladae Bishop showing up. I know Coretta showed up. I appreciate you showing up. Sakina, she gave the greetings. Walaikum assalam, sister. She said, I know she can't hear us on the YouTube, and I don't know what happened with that. I appreciate you letting us know. And Maria, I appreciate you showing up and sharing something. Anderson and Josiah said, sometimes us black people like to get over or exploit our fellow black man or black woman. And that's true. And I'm saying like this, I'm going to say this. Everybody tries to exploit us. And for us to do it, I look at us as victims. That's how I look at us. If you are like that, I'm seeing that you're a victim of our circumstances. And I'm not going to say I'm liking it. You know, I'm going to try to, I'm like, you know, but I'm going to say like, okay, that's a black person loss. You know, even if you're saying, well, I'm only going to go to these type of restaurants, so I'm trying to be different. But if you're not struggling, I'm going to put it like, I don't care what you're doing. Somebody exploiting us is one thing. But if you're not struggling, if you're not in the struggle, then I'm looking at you the same way. You're part of the problem too. Yeah. You know, you might not think that you're trying to exploit us or whatever, but I'm saying I want everybody should be in this struggle. Because we got a burden that's too hard for me and you to carry, a lot of us to carry. You want to read the next comment?
Sure. It says, good evening, brothers. This is from Barbara Rowe. It says, good evening, brothers. And then she says, yes, I must concur. The struggle is real. And as we struggle, our own people are not being empowered. And reality is that we or they continue to kill each other, tear one another down, as if the system hasn't worked for us most or all of our lives. And that's true. A lot of it is because of what you said earlier, how we see ourselves. and how we see our brothers, how we see our sisters. And she's right when she says about the system, what it does to us. And a lot of us haven't gotten to the point where we realize that's a part of the struggle. Right. It's to make you hate me to where you want to do something to me just because I step on your shoes, or because of something happens at a club, or just because you don't like me, or because you're jealous. And so these are the things that we recognize, and we have to say, well, as a person who lives in the United States of America who looks like me, I'm going to do everything I can to help that not happen. Right. And that's all we can do.
Well, now, I'm going to say for those people that's like that, if the system is creating, the factory of the system is creating a product that feels worthless, how are they going to value you? If they don't value themselves, how is someone like that going to value you? If that person is willing to smoke crack, to take any kind of drug that they can to get rid of their problems, or to put alcohol in their system and just get drunk, they don't value themselves. What makes you think they're going to value you? So that's why I say I look at you as a victim. That don't mean I'm going to excuse you. I'm not going to let you rob me or anything like that. But I'm saying I got to understand who I'm looking at and who I'm dealing with. I'm looking at someone that's a broken product. And the system is meant to put out broken products. They don't want to put out working products. That's why some of our leaders that wasn't brought up in their system is a threat to them. Or some of them that was brought up in their system that's still, like you was talking about that kid wanting to go to college. If that kid got something at home and they was taught what to look at, then he's going to get that education and then come out the other side looking at us different.
And we can't wait to we can't wait for leaders to come. We must build leaders. In other words, these young people that's in our sphere of influence, we have to put that seed in them at a young age. When I ask some of my students, what do you want to do when you grow up? When I initially always ask them that, and sometimes they'll say they wanted to work this, that, or the other. Well, then we get around to where, what happened to wanting to own your own business? Why don't you want people to work for you? You can make X amount of times more money, and you can employ people that look like you, because a lot of times we're not being hired. You can have people that look like you that can work with you and work for you. And so this has to be put in their minds at an early age, because the educational system is going to always want you to work for IBM, work for these other places that have good jobs, and that's fine, unless you've taken that and one day you're going to try to do for yourself to help the people that look like you, because we need that type of mentality.
And I think part of the traps that they put out there in this system is the money grab. It's not a lot of money if I just open up a business in a black community. And I see a lot of our mom and pop places, they open up in the hood, they get their little support, and then they jump and they go to the other side of town, and then they struggling because those other people are not patronizing their business. So now you want to come back, or you want to go do a GoFundMe saying, hey, we need help. And see, I'm looking at them, I'm shaking my head, and I'm like, I feel you. But see, you left the community. And what happened to building in the community, for the community, with the community? Working for IBM, you may make more money. And like I said earlier about being comfortable, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I don't have to keep trying to get bigger and get away and do. I'm comfortable. So now I'm trying to be comfortable instead of trying to make extremely high amount of money to be rubbing shoulders with somebody else. Now, if you own a business, you can own a business and be comfortable, have a comfortable living. But if you want to get that mansion somewhere, then you might have to go with IBM and do that. And that's the trap that's within us, because a lot of them want to be out there. They want to get as far away from us as possible. And then when them other people treat you a certain way, then now you going to come limping back and talking about they did this and y'all come help me. This is a woe is me.
Yeah. And some of the people that we look up to have hurt the struggle, because they make us want those things. Look at videos sometimes, and everybody that's not everybody in the rap business, but some of them, they want you to chase golden, diamond rings and flashy cars. And so a person that's impressionable, this is what they think life is. Right. And because we don't have people who say, well, those guys don't even own that themselves. Right. They rented those things.
Right.
See.
I know, and I'm gonna tell you how they used to do that. I know they talk about it now. Yo MTV Cribs. And they had these rappers, and it was like but see, the mansions wasn't theirs. That one, see, Redman, I think he came out, he said, man, I stayed in an apartment. He said that was somebody else's house, and I'm walking around. They saying, but that's what Yo MTV Cribs wanted. They wanted to show rappers living lavishly, and then that's influencing our minds. Okay, maybe I could be a rapper, and I'm going to do this and do that. Instead of you having the rappers that's being real, that's saying this is what's going on in our community, you broadcasting, and I'm not going to sit up there. I'll never see Chuck D sitting up there faking and flossing a big mansion and crib like that, because that wasn't what they was about. They was about giving us a message. And like you mentioned earlier, something about these ball players or these people that's making all this money, they scared to speak out because somebody could take that money from them.
Of course.
And that's what I'm talking about. When you live in someplace else, or you moving with them, or you moving in that crowd, those other people, the white people with money, if you speak out, what you think they're gonna do?
They're gonna take it back from you.
They're gonna have power over you.
Exactly.
If we can control it ourselves, they're not gonna have any power over.
Like
over
we at
us.
one time had with the Negro League when we had it, but that's a whole other broadcast.
and I mean, it's fighting for the money. And that's the trap that they put us in too. So we're struggling for that apple that they're putting there, but that apple is leaving us behind. And if you speak out, then you know what, they're gonna take it from you.
That's true.
And that's what it's gonna be about. Now, you want to leave with something before we go?
Yeah, I wanted to leave with the people this ideal that we've been sharing today. The struggle is real. It will always be real. And I want you to realize and recognize that you're a part of this thing and it's affecting you, but do everything you can to make sure that the next person coming up beside you will know some things to do based upon your intuition and what you have, your experience in the struggle, whether it's economics, whether it's historical, this, in spite of what it may be. So we all have a role to play because this system isn't playing with any of us. So you definitely want to make sure that your heart is open to know that I'm in the struggle. I'm going to always be in the struggle, but I'm not going to let the struggle get me to where I neglect the struggle and I neglect my responsibilities, because our ancestors, many of them, didn't neglect it based upon what they had to go through, and they were the beacons of light that we look up to now, because in the struggle we can always mention, this is the thing that happened to them, but yet they withstood it, and they also taught us what to look for in the struggle and what to do about it.
Yeah, and I'm going to, like I opened up, and I know some of y'all didn't see the opening, and I made a statement. We all should be struggling. If you're a black man in this country, you should be struggling. If you're a black woman in this country, you should be struggling. If you're struggling through poverty or something like that, you're still in a struggle, so you're not going to be struggling with some of us. And what I'm saying, why we should be struggling, is because we have a conflict. We're fighting a battle. We're fighting something that's bigger than us. So Malcolm X had a struggle. Martin Luther King had a struggle. W.E.B. Du Bois had a struggle. Marcus Garvey. You go down the list, that struggle is always there, because that beast is going to be there. And that beast is this country, and this country means nothing good for us and our future. It's showing you that now. It's not having a problem erasing your history and erasing your value.
Right.
This is a struggle that we all should be fighting. So I don't care if you think you're good as an individual. That struggle is still going to be there for our people. So we all should be worried about our people. I don't care what status you reach. I don't care how NBA level or NFL level. It's still going to be a struggle for our people. And if you're not willing to fight the beast, like I said, the definition of a struggle is a violent or forceful effort. And we should be putting forth a forceful effort to fight the struggles that our people are going through, and that this system is going to continue to be putting us through. Our education system is in shambles as far as our education. I'm not talking about theirs. Theirs is doing what it's meant to do. They're erasing our history. We got to build our own, and we haven't done that, so we shouldn't be comfortable. We have to build our own businesses so we can employ each other without the pressure of them making us fire each other over some dumb stuff or whatever, or you having to conform to them. There was a time we had to wear our hair a certain way. They saw afros as being, too rebellious, dreadlocks being rebellious. This is the way our hair grows naturally. And all of these things, we have to struggle to make things better for us and break and detach from them in the system and become independent, and we will get our freedom that way. So the struggle is real and it's out there. Many of us thinking it's just poverty. It's not just poverty. We are poor. We got poor education. We got poor values as far as our community values and our ethics and stuff. We have no ethics, and we have very little value. We sit there and watch men abuse women. We sit up there and our kids are cheering videos on because that's what they're into, the videos. And we sit up there watching black men fight each other or black women fight each other in the hood. That's having no values within your people, because you should see you should discredit that. But we're not doing that, and we're not imprinting that on our youth. So we should all be in a struggle. And
Well said. That Brother Kevin, this is a great way to close the show. I hope you take heed to every word that came out of his mouth, because that is so true. We thank all of you for tuning in. We want you to tell someone about this broadcast, because more people need to hear this information that we're sharing with you, because we do it from the bottom of our hearts, because we know that we're in the struggle ourselves, and we want you to realize that everything that we have, we want to give to you, so that you don't have to fall into some of the pitfalls that we all seem to sometimes don't know how to avoid. So once again, we thank everybody for tuning in, and don't forget to tell more people to tune in every first and third Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, because we just have so much information we want to share with you, because we want you to know that, hey, we love you, and we don't want you to be in a situation when you get older that you never heard these things, because we're going to say what's on our hearts for you, not for us, because that's what real leaders do.
Peace.